जस्ट लाइव लिख दीजिएगा सो दैट आई कैन स्टार्ट. Okay. So good afternoon, dear students. How are you all doing? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Avni, Nancy, Priyanka, Abhishek, Hemant, Sakshi, Anjali, Hitesh. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. How are you all doing? Great. All right, sir. So, dear students, after discussing and going through the journey of, what do we call it? National income, that is in macroeconomics. Then from national income, moving into the world of Keynesian theory, we had a lot of idea about what macroeconomics is. बहुत कुछ हमें macroeconomics के बारे में समझ में आया. This public finance is yet another chapter, very easy for that matter, but it again requires focused listening. Sir, what are the parts? This chapter is divided into 4 parts, meaning we will get 4 classes for it. Okay, I'll repeat my statement. This chapter is divided into 4 parts and we will get generally 4 classes for it according to the 4 parts that we have. Okay, so sir, what is it exactly? Could you tell us, sir? Yes, definitely I'll tell you. So everyone please pay attention. First topic under this public finance is fiscal function. First topic under this head. Topic name, obviously chapter name is public finance. Topic name is fiscal function. Okay. Part 2 is what, sir? Everybody, part 2 is market failure. Part 2 is market failure. What is part 3, sir? Part 3 is government intervention. Government intervention. Government intervention. And finally, fiscal policy. Mind you, people may ask that, sir, fiscal you have already written, but here it is function, here it is policy. The two are different. Second is market failure, government intervention, fiscal policy. So each day we will discuss each topic. So if you are wondering what our ongoing schedule would be for the next 4 classes that is taking from today, it would be number 1, this, followed by this. And generally we do it in this order only, the order in which I have written them down. The order in which I have written them down. If there is any swap, any change, I'll let you know, but this is it. So friends, have you understood the structure of what this chapter is all about so that I can begin with the discussion of this topic, fiscal function, the heading fiscal function? That is our topic for today under public finance. Come on, everyone. Fiscal function. Friends, let me tell you something. Okay? I'll take you back to your journey of microeconomics. The first around 15 to 16 classes you would have done. There is a major problem in economy. Do you all remember what is that major problem? This chapter is more about understanding. There is theory. Very good. Very good. Yes, Anushka. Very good. The major problem of economy is scarcity. There are many problems, but one of them is scarcity. When I say scarcity, I would remind you, again, another question I would like to ask you. Who gave the scarcity? This you must have done in microeconomics. Okay. Who gave the scarcity definition of economics? Any clue? I think some answers are correct, some are incorrect. The answer is Lionel Robbins. What did Lionel Robbins say? What did Lionel Robbins say? Economics is a science which studies human relationship. Do you remember that definition? Very good. So, scarcity definition was given by Lionel Robbins. Who talked about scarcity? Who talked about the problem of scarcity? Yes or no? Yes, sir, we do remember that. But because of scarcity, there were three questions that arose that would call the major economic problems, or I would say the central economic problems. Do you all remember what the central economic problems are? Do you all remember what the central economic problems are? Sir, we remember. The central economic problems are what to produce. I repeat, the central economic problems are what to produce and obviously how much to produce, means what to manufacture basically. What to produce and how much to produce. How to produce. How to produce. How to produce. And finally, which one is it? For whom to produce. And finally, for whom to produce. So there are three major economic problems. Agreed, disagreed, everyone? Yes, sir, we do agree. But now you all remember, but who solves this problem? Now answer me this. Who solves these problems? Who solves these problems or who take decisions pertaining to these problems? That's my question. I'll wait for 2 to 3 minutes for people to answer. I'll wait for 2 to 3 minutes for people to answer. Come on, let's see. Come on, everyone. Let's see who is answering. Let's see, everyone. Very good. Sir, let me tell you this. Here, most of you are faltering in your answers. But see, I will give you an example. Who solves this problem depends on who solves this problem. कौन इन प्रॉब्लम्स को सॉल्व करता है, मतलब कौन डिसाइड करेगा कि इकोनॉमी में कौन सा प्रोडक्ट बनना चाहिए, कितना यूनिट्स बनना चाहिए, कौन बनाएगा और किसके लिए बनाएगा, कैसे बनेगा गुड्स, ये डिपेंड करता है ऑन नेचर ऑफ इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम. Depends on nature of economic system. Depends on nature of economic system. So then another question arises, sir, what are the different types of economic systems? So obviously you will tell me that there are, sir, three economic systems. Sir, there are three economic systems. Number one is capitalist economy. Number two is socialist economy. Number three is, you all guessed it right, mixed economy. Who solves this problem? It depends on nature of economic system. Who solves this problem depends on nature of economic system. Whether it's a capitalist economy. Who rules capitalist economy? Obviously the private sector, the firms. So here, generally firms take the decision. Socialist economy, who rules the socialist economy? The government. So here the government takes the decision. While in mixed economy, who takes the decision? You all are correct when you say, sir, the firms and the government. I saw somebody straight away answering, sir, firms, governments. Wrong answer. You will have to answer that it depends on the nature of economic system. But sir, you were supposed to teach us fiscal function. Why are you talking to us about microeconomics? You'll realize it very soon. My question is, how did I start the class? I asked you what is the major problem. You told scarcity. I told because of scarcity problem, what are the problems that arise? You all told me what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. Then I asked who solves the problem. So the answer was, it depends on nature of economic system. If it's capitalist economy, firms would generally interfere to solve the problem. If it's a socialist economy, the government would interfere to solve the problem. And if it's the mixed economy, then both the firms and the government would intervene to solve the problem. So far, so good. Yes or no, everybody? Yes or no, everybody? Yes or no, everybody? Come on. Come on, guys. करेक्ट. हिंदी में भी एक्सप्लेन करिए. ओके कुणाल, आई विल रिपीट दिस एंटायर थिंग वंस इन हिंदी एज वेल. कुणाल, मैंने आज क्लास शुरू किया इस बात से कि इकोनॉमी का मेजर प्रॉब्लम क्या है. तो बच्चे लोगों ने कहा कि सर स्कैरसिटी का मेजर प्रॉब्लम है. स्कैरसिटी का मेजर प्रॉब्लम है. सर स्कैरसिटी का मतलब क्या होता है? रिसोर्सेस की कमी होना. किस किस मुकाबले? डिमांड के मुकाबले रिसोर्सेस कम पड़ना, मतलब उतना सप्लाई ना होना. तो मैंने पूछा इस स्कैरसिटी प्रॉब्लम की वजह से तीन मेजर प्रॉब्लम्स क्या आती हैं. तो कुणाल सबने कहा कि सर तीन मेजर परेशानियां आती है. पहली परेशानी, क्या बनाए, क्या बनाए और कितना बनाए, कौन सा गुड्स बनाए, बटर बनाए कि बंदूक बनाए. ठीक है. कैसे बनाए, मतलब कैसे बनाए का मतलब है ज्यादा लेबर का इस्तेमाल करें, मतलब ह्यूमन एफर्ट्स का इस्तेमाल करें, या ज्यादा मशीन एफर्ट्स का इस्तेमाल करें. और किसके लिए ये सामान बन रहा है? क्या ये मिडिल क्लास के लिए बन रहा है? क्या ये अमीरों के लिए बन रहा है? क्या ये गरीबों के लिए बन रहा है? किसके लिए ये बन रहा है? तो मैंने ये तीन सवाल पूछे, मतलब इकोनॉमिक्स ने ये तीन सवाल पूछे, मैंने तो नहीं. फिर एक सवाल और आया, पर ये सॉल्व कौन करता है इन परेशानियों को? इन सवालों का जवाब कौन देता है? तो आप लोगों ने, कुछ लोगों ने तुरंत आंसर दे दिया, जो कि गलत था. आपको कहना था कि ये जो तीन सवाल है, क्या बनाए, कैसे बनाए, किसके लिए बनाए, इसका जवाब यह है कि ये इस बात पर निर्भर करता है. इसका जवाब यह है कि ये इस बात पर निर्भर करता है कि इकोनॉमी कौन चला रहा है. क्या बोला सर? कि इकोनॉमी कौन चला रहा है. क्या बोला सर? कि इकोनॉमी कौन चला रहा है. मतलब अगर कैपिटलिस्ट इकोनॉमी है तो ये प्रॉब्लम फर्म सॉल्व करते हैं. अगर सोशलिस्ट इकोनॉमी है तो ये प्रॉब्लम सरकारें सॉल्व करती हैं. यदि ये मिक्स्ड इकोनॉमी है तो फर्म्स और सरकारें दोनों मिलकर ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करती है. हिंदी में भी मैंने अभी तक का सारा मूल सार आप लोगों को दे दिया, सारांश दे दिया आप लोगों को. क्लियर है? हाँ ना बोलिएगा जी. सर बात में तो दम है. एकदम सही बोले आप. सर बात में तो दम है, एकदम सही बोले आप. अग्री करते डिसअग्री करते ये बता दो बस आप हमें. वेरी गुड. चलिए बात करते हैं. लेट्स प्रोसीड फर्दर. लेट्स प्रोसीड फर्दर. लेट्स प्रोसीड फर्दर. So now everybody, there are views of two economists. There are views of two economists. There are views of two economists. Very important. Actually, this chapter is about fiscal function. मतलब मैं इसका मतलब बता रहा हूं फर्स्ट टाइम. I everybody will write down in the chat. Fiscal function in simple language would mean different responsibilities of government or government responsibility. Whenever the word fiscal comes, government should come into your mind directly. Fiscal function is government responsibility. The meaning of this chapter is fiscal function. That is government responsibility. Everybody write down in the chat box, please. Now, friends, here I would like to introduce to you two famous economists, one of whose name you have already heard in your microeconomics discussion. I will give you a hint. Let's see who answers. The one who answers will get a prize. Okay? So now, the question is, person I'm talking about is the thinker in favor of capitalist economy. In fact, that person is, you could say, called the father of capitalism, thought process wise. Come on, everyone. Tell me the name of the person. वाह, एडम स्मिथ. क्या बात है. All of you will get the prize. Sir, how we will get the prize? That You will be able to write the answer in exam and institute will give you marks. This will be the prize. Okay, very good. So now Adam Smith is on one side, and on the other side, there is Richard Musgrave. Richard Musgrave is rather a less popular name because in microeconomics we talk less about this guy. Richard Musgrave. Musgrave. Richard Musgrave. ठीक है तो? Right, sir. It's clear, sir. It's clear, sir. Now, dear students, I will tell you about the opinion of each of these two, and they are very relevant from the MCQ's standpoint. They are very important from the MCQ's standpoint. So now, pay attention, everyone. Pay attention, everyone. Adam Smith. Adam Smith was, number one, the believer of free market economy, means no government interference. Believer in free markets. That is, no government interference shall be tolerated. That is, no government interference shall be tolerated. So Adam Smith is a believer in free markets. Adam Smith is a believer in free markets. Adam Smith is a believer in free markets. I am sure all of you get this. Yes, sir. So now comes another question, or rather another fact for that matter. Another fact for that matter. See, Adam Smith is a believer in free markets. That's good. That's cool. Second point is what? What is the second point, sir? Pay attention, guys. Come on. See, Adam Smith believed in free markets. That's cool. That's not an issue. Now, the problem that arises is Adam Smith believer in free markets. Now, the problem that is arising is that in some situations, in following areas, even Adam Smith says government interference is necessary. In following areas, as per Smith, government interference necessary. Means here, private sector, due to insufficient profits, may not be doing well. And what are the areas? This institute may ask you in the form of MCQ. So I hope everybody is making down the notes with me, and that's why I'm going a little slow, because today everything I write is going to make things crisp and clear for you. Number one, national defense. So as per Smith, if you talk about national defense, then definitely government interference is of supreme importance. Point number one, or point A, you could say. Point B would be justice, law and order, basically. Justice, law, and other beneficial public institutions. Sir, what are beneficial public institutions? Sir, what are beneficial public institutions? Sir, what are beneficial public institutions? Example, like this, we have ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. They are beneficial for the country. Railways, they are beneficial for country and its people. All these are beneficial public institutions. So when the goal is direct benefit of the public and profit is less, private sector would be least interested. In such scenario, Smith says that interference by the government is of prime importance. Areas include defense, justice, law, and other public institutions. I hope everybody has noted it down. Come on, everyone. If not, do it, please. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Very good. Have you understood it so far? If understood, please write down understood in the chat so that I can proceed. Because this topic is so lengthy na, that I will not be able to come back. मैं पीछे नहीं आ पाऊंगा दोबारा. इसलिए मैं बोल रहा हूं, जब समझ लिए हो तो बोल दो उसी समय, नहीं समझ आया उसी समय बोल दो। ठीक है, ठीक है। I have understood. People are telling, and so we can, move on. Now, the Richard Musgrave, this guy, he had written you could say, a book, article. The name of the article was basically published in 1959, Theory of Public Finance. So the name of the Musgrave's book is Theory of Public Finance, 1959. Rich in this book, why is this book important? In this book, Richard Musgrave tells us about the three important roles of government in a market. Three roles of government in a market. In this book, basically, he writes about three roles of government in a market. Three roles of government in a market. थ्री रोल्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इन अ मार्केट, मतलब रिचर्ड मसग्रेव बोलता है गवर्नमेंट का तीन रोल्स, तीन जिम्मेदारियां गवर्नमेंट की क्या है एक मार्केट इकोनॉमी में। थ्री रोल्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इन अ मार्केट इकोनॉमी। थ्री रोल्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इन अ मार्केट इकोनॉमी। थ्री रोल्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इन अ मार्केट इकोनॉमी। थ्री रोल्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इन अ मार्केट इकोनॉमी एज पर रिचर्ड मसग्रेव in the book Theory of Public Finance. He basically tells about three roles of government in a market economy. And what are the three roles of government in the market economy? Number one, and this is your chapter's future journey. So this chapter is entirely based on Richard Musgrave's writings. We will discuss it in great details. So sir, please tell us what it is. Number one is the allocation function. So government's first role is allocation. Sir, what is allocation? I'll tell you. First, for the sake of writing it down, note it down. First function is allocation function. First function is allocation function. Yeah. Second function is distribution function. Palak, it doesn't matter actually. Distribution function. Allocation. I'll tell each one of them. Basically, these three are the today's topic. And third is stabilization function. Stabilization function. We'll talk about them, each one of them. But remember, if it comes, whose idea was this? Remember, Richard Musgrave. From which work of Richard Musgrave? Theory of Public Finance is the work of Richard Musgrave. When was this work published? 1959. As per this, what are the roles of government? ADS. 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 Just like MDH, you can now read it that way only. There is this MDH masala na, which says MDH, MDH. Same way I studied like ADS, ADS. So basically allocation function, distribution function, stabilization function. Allocation function, distribution function, stabilization function. First of all, do you remember this, guys? Come on, learn it if you may. हिंदी में अगर बोलूं तो गवर्नमेंट का तीन रोल्स है एक मार्केट इकोनॉमी में। ये रिचर्ड मसग्रेव ने कहा था अपनी बुक थ्योरी ऑफ पब्लिक फाइनेंस में। उसमें इसने कहा कि गवर्नमेंट का तीन रोल है, एलोकेशन, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन और स्टेबलाइजेशन। अब ये इन तीनों का एक एक करके क्या मतलब है वो मैं अभी आप लोगों के साथ बात करने वाला हूं। बात खत्म हो गया। करेक्ट। वेरी गुड। लेट्स गो। सो नाउ टॉक अबाउट ईच वन ऑफ देम। ईच वन ऑफ देम। फर्स्ट इज एलोकेशन फंक्शन। पहले समझ लीजिए और फिर लिखेंगे इसके बारे में। पहले समझ लीजिए एलोकेशन क्या होता है, फिर लिखेंगे इसके बारे में, ठीक है ना। एलोकेशन फंक्शन। फ्रेंड्स, फ्रेंड्स, इन एन इकोनॉमी, फॉरगेट अबाउट इकोनॉमी, एक बार इकोनॉमी को छोड़ दीजिए, एक बार इकोनॉमी को भूल जाइए। मैं हिंदी में पहले बोलता हूं, फिर मैं इंग्लिश में भी ट्रांसलेट करूंगा, है ना। फर्स्ट आई स्पीक इन हिंदी, देन आई ट्रांसलेट इट इनटू इंग्लिश। आप लोग एक बात सोचिए, भूल जाइए इकोनॉमी का बात हो रहा है। मेरे को एक बात बताइए, आप लोगों का अभी जो बेस्ट रिसोर्स है, आप लोग का मतलब स्टूडेंट्स का बेस्ट रिसोर्स, स्टूडेंट्स का, ये दुनिया में किसी का भी एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट बेस्ट रिसोर्स क्या है? सर, समय, टाइम। आप लोग अभी दोपहर में क्लास कर रहे हो, क्लास कर रहे हो आप लोग दोपहर में, ठीक है ना। आप लोग सो क्यों नहीं जाते? खेलने चले जाओ, खाना खा लो, पढ़ाई क्यों करने बैठे हो? आपका जवाब आएगा कि सर, क्योंकि ये सब करने के लिए हमारे पास टाइम है और भी, बट इस मोमेंट पे बेस्ट चीज पढ़ाई करना, ये लेक्चर जो आप दे रहे हो, ये सुनना हमको लगता है इंपॉर्टेंट है। बराबर है। इसी तरीके से जैसे आपके कंट्रोल में आपका समय, आपका रिसोर्स है, वैसे गवर्नमेंट के कंट्रोल में पूरे कंट्री का रिसोर्स है। तो अब किसी चीज से आलू ग्रो होता है, वहीं किसी चीज से मशीन बनता है। तो कुछ प्रोडक्शन में कितना चीज कहाँ यूज होगा, कौन सा फैक्टर, कौन सा रिसोर्स किस चीज के प्रोडक्शन में होगा यूज, कितनी मात्रा में यूज होगा, इस चीज को डिसाइड करना एलोकेशन होता है। उम्मीद है क्लियर है। Now let's translate it into English language. Okay. Let me translate it into English language. Okay. Friends, I asked everybody, you're attending my lecture today. Why don't you go to sleep? Go and sleep, or do one thing. Go and play. Go and play cricket, play football, play basketball, or whatever you like. Or eat something. Hang out with your friends. Why are you not doing it? Because the best resource you have is time, and you are trying to maximize the benefit of your resource, that is time. Agreed? That is what allocation function from government's point of view is. Government has the control over all the resources in the economy, be it minerals, be it forests, etc. Now, if they are used in production, then the best thing to do is to decide their best possible uses so that everyone is satisfied in the economy. The decision to use these resources in a particular way is the allocation function of government. I am sure now you have understood this. Yes or no? Come on, guys. Come on, guys, come on. Allocation, is this clear? So that I can make you write about it. How government can do that, that is the second matter altogether. Have you understood it? Very good, sir. We have understood this. Fantastic then. Let's write down. Then let's write down. What are we waiting for? Allocation function. It refers to the way in which factors of production, it refers to the way in which factors of production are allocated among various uses. Uses. Okay. But what is the government objective? Why is government allocating? Next question is, what is the government's objective in allocating resources? Like, why is government unnecessarily interfering here? Why is government unnecessarily interfering here? I'll tell you why. Not unnecessarily, rather. It is very necessary, very important, rather. First, you note this down, then I'll proceed. Come on, note it down, everyone. Come on, everybody. So see, government objective is number one. First of all is optimal allocation of resources so that wastage is not there. Number one, optimal allocation of scarce resources to minimize wastage. Optimal allocation of scarce resources, you see, to minimize wastage, to minimize wastage, to minimize wastage, to minimize wastage, to minimize wastage. This is number one, optimal allocation. Number two, another thing is maximizing social welfare. Maximize social welfare. Social welfare means benefit of the general public. Benefit of general public. Because you have heard that in a socialist economy or wherever the government is present, the objective is social welfare. In the microeconomics discussion, you have studied it in the beginning chapters. Next, to correct market failures. Huh? Sir, what is market failure? Market failure occurs though we have a separate chapter for it. I told you now, you see above. This is our next day's whole chapter only, market failure. But if I were to term in a single, line, I would say market failure is occurring in that market where resources are misallocated. Means there is wastage of resources or underutilization of resources. Understood? Correct market failure. That is misallocation of resources. Though market failure is a big term, just to define it in 3 words is not justifiable. But yes, only this much is required, because if you are thinking from MCQ point of view, I don't think you need to know a hell lot about it. Okay. And finally, to focus on merit goods. To focus on merit goods. Now, this must be new for you all. Sir, what is a merit good? What is a merit good? See, I will also be using the word demerit goods very soon enough. So I'll tell you, there are 2 types of goods. Merit good, and the government always tries to focus on the merit goods production. And on the other side, there are demerit goods. The government always tries to ignore the demerit goods. I'll give you an example. Merit goods are generally the ones which are good for society. Sir, can you tell us an example? What is good for society? Healthcare. Healthcare. So suppose government is financing some hospital who is providing healthcare at low cost. Huh? Government is supporting some farmer who is growing crops. These crops, healthcare, all these are, merit goods. Merit. जो सबके काम आने वाला है. Merit goods. Good for the society, healthcare, crops, etc. Okay? And what are demerit goods, sir? Friends, demerit goods are like alcohol, cigarettes, which are generally not good for the society. Generally speaking, not good for the society. So what government does is, it imposes huge tax on demerit goods. So that is kind of focusing on merit goods. So sir, could you read all the 4 points? What is the government objective in allocating resources? Definitely, I will read it for you. Number 1 is to ensure optimal allocation of scarce resources, to ensure optimal allocation of scarce resources, to minimize wastage, to maximize social welfare, to correct market failure, and to focus on merit goods. This is the government objective in allocating resources. Goods are merit when it benefits the society, demerit when it harms individual and society. If you have copied this much down, let me know. Then under allocation function only, I will move on to the next head. Come on, everybody. If not noted, write down the same in the chat box, please. Okay. So all the friends are telling me done, sir. Very good. Great news then, though. If you have done it, it's great news. Great news. Very good. Okay, great. Optimal means where there is uh, Mohammad Farhan is asking what is optimal. My dear, optimal means that minimizes wastage and at the same time ensures proper usage. That is optimal. सही तरीके से. हाँ पलक, you will get it. Now, next question. Everybody, let's write down the next question. We are under this head only. अभी भी we are under allocation function only, huh? Mind you. अभी भी we are under allocation function only. Allocation function of who? Whose allocation function are we studying about, Re Baba? Whose allocation function are we studying about? Whose allocation function are we studying about? Come on. सही बोला. Government. Correct. Government. खैर चले आगे बात करें आप लोग. खैर चले अब आप लोग आगे बात करें. Question. In what areas are there a scope for government intervention? Huh? So the question is scope for government intervention in allocation. Scope of government intervention. Scope of government intervention in resource allocation. Scope of government intervention in resource allocation. That is the question. Everyone, scope of government intervention in resource allocation. So see, scope means what does it cover? What does it entail? इसके अंदर क्या क्या कवर होंगे? देखिए, गवर्नमेंट का एलोकेशन फंक्शन की वजह से ही पता लगता है कि किन चीजों पर टैक्स लगने वाला है और किन चीजों को खर्चा होने वाला है. मतलब कहां गवर्नमेंट टैक्स देगी और किसको गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडी देगी, किससे गवर्नमेंट टैक्स लेगी और किसको गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडी देगी. Who from whom will the government collect taxes and who will be rewarded by the government with subsidies? That is decided on the basis of this resource allocation function. That will be decided on the basis of this resource allocation function. On the basis of this resource allocation function. So scope of government intervention in resource allocation. Let's go ahead, sir. Let's go ahead, sir. The allocation function determines what will be taxed, how and on what the government revenue will be spent. The allocation function determines what will be taxed, how and on what the government revenue will be spent. किस पर सरकारें खर्चा करेंगी, गवर्नमेंट किस पे खर्चा करेगा, ये एलोकेशन फंक्शन से ही पता लगता है. Okay, great. The allocation function determines what will be taxed, how and on what the government revenue will be spent. Yes. So now you will see what will be taxed. You will have the basic idea that government will tax the demerit goods. And on what the government revenue will be spent, you will have basic idea. Government revenue means subsidy. And government will give subsidy on what? Obviously, you know, crops. That is merit goods. This is the first point. Have you understood it, yaar? Come on, everybody. Very good. Next, allocation function, that is it. It means allocation function decides that, see, you in the economy, you have public goods and private goods. Private goods is, for example, this pen I am using. This is my pen. This is Ashish Kedia's pen. So I will be able to use it. Only I will be able to use it. Okay. Public good is the local park that you have. Okay. Everyone can do a morning walk there. Kids can play there. That is a public good. So if the government has certain resources, which one to allow for private ownership, like government is allowing some land which private individuals can own. People like me and you can buy. But for some land, government has reserved it for government purposes. Yes or no? That is public good. That is public good. So please, everybody, write it down. It is concerned with process by which total resources are divided among, by which the total resources are divided among various uses and public and private goods and public and private goods and public and private goods. How government is going to allocate that, that is decided, friends. I hope it's clear to everybody. Come on, guys, clear it. Vivek is asking why the demerit goods are taxed. Obviously, because the government discourages their production. Government discourages alcohol. Government discourages cigarettes. And that's why. Okay, Tanmay, that is not in the control. Okay. It is concerned with process by which total resources are divided among various goods and various public and private goods, I should write. Among various public and private goods. All right. Third point. Third point. Now, friends, some resources are used for private use. Okay. So suppose, for example, there is a building. Now, government is planning to construct a flyover. Now, there is a land, private land, that is coming in the way of this flyover. So government may convert that private land by paying the person the money, public land, so that the bridge can be constructed. Understood, not understood? Yes, sir, we have understood. So government, it also includes reallocation. That is what resources that are private and require conversion into public. So reallocation of resources from private use to public use. From private use to public use. And finally, please try to understand that the market is functioning on its own. That is, private sector is doing business, consumer is doing. The purpose of government is not to act as a substitute or a competitor. Rather, government is a complementer. That is, government is helping the process rather than acting as a barrier to the process or a substitute to the process. Okay. So remember, government is a complement. Complement means supporter to market system. Government is a complement to market system. Government is not substitute to market system. This has to understand. The idea is not to replace the market system entirely. So government is not a substitute to market system. So I will read them. This is the scope. So if somebody asks the scope, it will be within these points only. I'll read down each one of the points. I'll read out each one of the points. The question is scope of intervention, government intervention in resource allocation. The first one is the allocation function determines what will be taxed, how and on what the government revenue will be spent. How and on what the government revenue will be spent. Next, it is concerned with the process by which total resources are divided among various public and private goods. Third, reallocation of resources from private use to public use. And lastly, government, two roles act up here. Number one, government is a complement to market system. What government is not is a substitute to market system. The government doesn't intend to replace the market system entirely. Rather, it tries to help the market system. Yes. Is that clear, everybody? Is that clear, everybody? And lastly, we will study instruments of resource allocation. Like, how does government interfere? What are the tools? Like, for example, taxes you discussed. Okay, subsidies you discussed. Different laws and regulations government can make. That is what are the tools in the hands of government to decide the allocation or to undertake the allocation. So now, in under the allocation head, we would be discussing each one of them. That is the different instruments, each one of the instruments. Are we ready, dear students? Yes or no? Come on, come on, come on. Okay. So let's go ahead. So everybody, let's go ahead. The fact that most of you have understood, let's go ahead. So, question. What are instruments of government intervention in allocation of resources? What are the instruments of government intervention in allocation? What are the instruments of government intervention in allocation? How can government help in allocation? What tools? Number one tool, I will tell you. Very easy. Number one tool, I will tell you. Very easy. Yes, sir, tell us. Government can start directly producing some goods like electricity, which are very essential. Public transportation government can arrange if government feels that it is too costly. Railways government can arrange. That is public transportation only. Understood? So number one instrument of intervention by the government is direct participation by the government by involving itself in production of goods. Clear है क्या? Government कैसे allocate कर सकता है इकोनॉमी में? खुद प्रोडक्शन करके. ये पहला पॉइंट मैं बोल रहा हूं. बताइए कितना मुश्किल है ये याद रखना, समझना इसको. सर बात तो समझ में आ गया. तो फर्स्ट पॉइंट आई विल राइट डाउन, directly producing the economic goods. First point I will write down, directly producing the economic good. Example, electricity, public transportation. Example, electricity, public transportation. So that is number one instrument of government intervention. That is number one instrument of government intervention. What? That the government can engage itself directly in producing the economic goods. Government can engage itself directly in producing the economic goods. Government can engage itself directly in producing the economic goods. Is that clear, everybody? Intervention means government interference. Interference means involvement, interfering. Government playing a role in between. That is what, dear students, intervention means. I hope it's clear. Okay, great. Next, what government could do is influencing private allocation. Influencing private allocation. Influencing private allocation. Private allocation through incentive and disincentives. For example, government can tax the demerit goods like cigarettes and give subsidies on essential goods like crops. So influencing private allocation through incentives. Incentive is like subsidy. Through incentives like subsidy, influencing private allocation through incentives like subsidy and disincentives like tax at high rates on cigarettes and alcohol. On cigarettes and alcohol. So government may do this. So these are the 2 points, first 2 points. The question was, what are the instruments of government intervention in allocation? Number one is government can directly produce the economic goods. Government can engage itself in producing the economic goods directly. Government can influence private allocation through incentives. Government can influence private allocation through incentives like subsidy and disincentives like tax at high rates. Understood, not understood, everybody? Come on, everyone. If it's clear, let's move on to the third one, please. Come on, everybody. If it's clear, come on, the next one, please. Government can introduce different competition policies. There is, for example, Competition Act, which says that predatory pricing and some practices cannot be taken. So government can basically bring in various laws and regulations. That is what I'm trying to say. So competition policies. Sometimes government may ask two firms to merge. Merger policies. Government can undertake to decide allocation of resources. Regulatory activity. Like for example, suppose this is a businessman. Suppose this is a businessman and now he has a lot of workers under him. Now what happens is that this businessman tells them that, okay, I will give you salary of rupees 1000 per month each. Now the problem is that these workers are very sad. They don't have anywhere to go. But government is not happy seeing that this gentleman here is earning 10 lakhs and, paying them only 1000 per month. That's not done. What will government do? Government will fix minimum wages. Now, okay, from now on, everybody must give this much minimum wages to their people. There is a law of minimum wages. After the class, you can Google it also. Minimum wage policy. Minimum wage policy. So this way government can influence the allocation of resources. Initially, this guy was allocating the entire resource to his tummy. He was eating away all the money. But now this guy is distributing them thanks to the government. So that is, what do we call it? Allocation policy of the government through policies. So that is the fourth point that I'll write. Regulatory activities. Some businesses, government may demand that, for example, liquor. Alcohol, you can only sell if you have a license from the government, for which government charges exorbitantly. High rates of taxes government charges. So regulatory activities such as licensing, controls, minimum wages, etc. Fifth point can be what, sir? Legal framework, legal and administrative frameworks. Government can enter into legal and administrative frameworks. Frameworks means you will have to pay penalty for non-complying with a law. Example, penalty for non-compliance. Penalty for non-compliance. This is what is being discussed over here, my dear friends. So these are the different instruments. What are the instruments? Subsidies, taxes, policies, laws, licensing, minimum wages, direct production of the goods. All these legal frameworks are the different tools through which government can take the allocation resource function in its hand. Is that clear, everyone? So the first function is finally over. That's the good news. That's the good news. That's the good news. Now, friends, before I start talking about the next point, before I start talking about the next point, you know, those who have doubts, please ask me. For the rest of the students, I am giving 5 minutes break. मैं फिर से बोलता हूँ, बाकी स्टूडेंट्स के लिए मैं 5 मिनट ब्रेक दे रहा हूं, पर जिन्हें डाउट पूछना है अब कुछ भी अभी तक जो भी हुआ है उधर से, तो वो लोग पूछ सकते हैं. बाकियों के लिए 5 मिनट ब्रेक है. ठीक है ना? तो बाकी लोग, आप लोग डाउट पूछ सकते हो. शूट. नॉन कंप्लायंस मीन्स इफ somebody doesn't obey the government's law. अगर कोई गवर्नमेंट के नियम को नहीं मानता है तो गवर्नमेंट उस पर पेनल्टी लगाती है. स्कोप ऑफ इंटरवेंशन का सेकेंड पॉइंट पढ़ू. ओके, पढ़ देता हूं. इट इज कंसर्न्ड विद द प्रोसेस बाय विच total resources are divided among various public and private goods. It is concerned with the process by which total resources are divided among various public and private goods. It is the concerned with by process by which total resources are divided among various public and private goods. I hope it's clear, everybody. Suraj, after the class, you can rewatch and take that. Yes, government can function. Why not? So, friends, there are three functions. As I told you, each function is a separate topic as given by Richard Musgrave. Allocation function we have done. Allocation function हमने कर लिया है. हम लोग अभी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन और स्टेबलाइजेशन का बात करने वाले हैं. Anil is asking, sir, how to prepare for economics and maths? Consistently attending the classes. If it is maths, then constantly practicing is only the secret I know. Question 2 का last point. Government, okay. It says that government is a complement to market system. मतलब government market system के लिए है, मार्केट सिस्टम की मदद करने के लिए है. कॉम्प्लीमेंट मतलब एक दोस्त है, दुश्मन नहीं है मार्केट सिस्टम का कि मार्केट सिस्टम को हटा के गवर्नमेंट सिस्टम आ जाए. वो ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं है. ऑब्जेक्टिव है मार्केट सिस्टम जो चल रहा है उसको एनेबल करना, उसको और बेहतर करने में हेल्प करना. समझ आ गया? और बताओ. कम ऑन एवरीबॉडी. ओके. इन द फॉलोइंग एरियाज as per Smith, in the following areas, as per Smith, government interference is necessary. In the following areas, as per Smith, government interference is necessary: national defense, justice, law, beneficial public institutions. Okay. One more minute and then I'll start. No, tax is imposed on both merit and demerit goods, but demerit goods पे tax ज्यादा rate पे लगता है, merit goods पे tax कम rate पे लगता है. Demerit goods are taxed at a higher rate, while merit goods are taxed at lower rates. That's the only difference. Let's go ahead, everyone. So the first function is done. Redistribution function. Distribution, or you could say it redistribution. That is even better. Distribution and redistribution function is the same. So don't, panic there. Redistribution function is good one. Good point. Redistribution function. Let's go ahead, everybody. Let's talk about it. Sir, what is redistribution function? Basically, it means equality distribution, equal distribution of income and wealth. So let's write down. It is concerned with distribution of, it is concerned with distribution of income. It is concerned with distribution of what? Income and wealth to ensure equity and fairness. Equity and fairness. To ensure equity and fairness. Meaning what? To ensure equity and fairness. To ensure equity and fairness. मतलब इनकम सोसाइटी में ऐसे बंटना चाहिए, ऐसे नहीं कि रिच रिच होता जाए, पुअर पुअर होते जाए. ऐसा नहीं. इस तरह से कि लगभग सबका भला होते चले. एवरीबडी इज बेटर ऑफ. दैट इज द गोल. गॉट इट एवरीवन? Right, sir. It's clear. It's clear to us. So that is redistribution function. Again, we will here study the objectives. Again, the same logic, scope, and then the instruments. Here we studied, now you see here we studied three things about allocation. Number one, we studied what is the government objective in allocating resources. Then we went ahead and we studied scope of government intervention, and finally instrument. The same thing, but this time it will be redistribution function. Okay, sir, let's shoot. Question. Objectives of uh, government interference Objectives of government interference in distribution function or redistribution function. What are the objective? Number one, the name is the objective itself. That is equitable distribution of society output. That is equitable distribution of society output. Society में whatever is produced, the goal is that is distributed in an equitable manner. So equitable distribution. Okay. There is a concept of externalities, which I will talk later on. So don't ask about externalities. Karthik, my dear student, like I had told in the last class also, please ask from whatever is discussed. If you try to go beyond using those words, which I haven't explained, it will create confusion for you only. Now, you're using this word externality. Whenever there will be a need, I will use the word. Why do you need to use the word, right, dear? So please try to avoid and follow what is being done. This way, there will be two problems. Number one, original topic you will have confusion, and number two, whatever new I will be discussing, you won't understand, right? So please focus here. So what I'm telling is, the number one objective is equitable distribution of societal output among households. Equitable distribution of society output equitable distribution of society output among equitable distribution of society output among households. Equitable distribution of society output among households. Equitable distribution of society output among households. Very good. So number one is equitable distribution of society output among households. Equitable distribution of society output among households. That is the first objective. Equitable distribution of society output among households. Number two, to ensure that everybody's life is improved, advancing well-being of every member of the society. Advancing means improving. Advancing well-being advancing well-being of members of the society. Advancing well-being of members of the society. Cool. Again, I repeat, advancing well-being of members of the society. Again, I repeat, advancing well-being of members of the society. Again, I repeat, advancing well-being of members of the society. Very good, friends. Next, just like output should be distributed equally, income and wealth should also be distributed equally. So equality in distribution of income and wealth. 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 Next, providing security to people. Safety. Security means safety. For example, I could say there are some people who cannot afford medical bills. So for that, government has separate insurance plans. Yes or no? That is what I am trying to say. Providing security to people. Providing security to people who have hardships. Hardships means tough times or trouble. Who have hardships. And finally, my dear students, in society, there are people who are living nearby the drains. Living condition is so poor. So the objective here of the government is to ensure that at least everybody has some minimum standard of living. That is, everybody is able to afford food, clothing, or shelter at least. So ensuring that everyone enjoys a minimum standard of living. Ensuring everyone enjoys at least a minimum standard of living. At least a minimum standard of living. So a particular lifestyle one can achieve, at least this much should be ensured. So friends, these are the objectives. Number one, equitable distribution of society output. Number one, equitable distribution of society output among households. Number two, advancing well-being of the members of the society. Number three, equality in distribution of income and wealth. Number four, providing security to people who have hardships. And finally, ensuring everyone enjoys at least a minimum standard of living. Is that clear, everyone? सर हिंदी में बताओ. ओके, हिंदी में बता देता हूं. आपका हुक्म सर आंखों पे. ये देखिए सर, ऐसा होता है ना. आप लोग ये समझिएगा, आप लोग एक बात समझिएगा. सबसे पहला गोल है रिडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन का, कि सोसाइटी में जो आउटपुट प्रोड्यूस हुआ है वो सारे हाउसहोल्ड्स के बीच में बराबरी से बटे. दूसरी बात, जो लोगों का लाइफस्टाइल है वो इंप्रूव हो, एडवांसिंग वेलबींग. तीसरी बात, जैसे आउटपुट इंप्रूव हो, आउटपुट इक्वली बटे, वैसे सोसाइटी में इनकम भी इक्विटेबली बटे. ठीक है. चौथी बात, सिक्योरिटी मिले उन लोगों को जिनको हार्डशिप्स होती है, जिनको डिफिकल्टी होती है ना. अब कोई मेडिकल इमरजेंसी आ गया घर पे, अगर लोग हॉस्पिटल बिल नहीं अफोर्ड कर पाते तो गवर्नमेंट कुछ इंश्योरेंस अरेंज करती है, वैसा कुछ. और लास्टली ये इंश्योर करना कि सब कोई अपना एक मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग तो अचीव इंजॉय कर ही पा रहे हैं. सब कोई अपना एक मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग अचीव और इंजॉय तो कर ही पा रहे हैं. उम्मीद है ये क्लियर रहा होगा. हार्डशिप मतलब मुश्किल है. हार्डशिप मीन्स डिफिकल्ट टाइम्स. और क्या. इज दैट क्लियर एवरीबडी? फ्रेंड्स कम ऑन फ्रेंड्स, इज दैट क्लियर फ्रेंड्स? Come on friends, is that clear friends? Come on guys. If everybody is ready, then I'll shoot the next one. I know this topic, a lot of writing is involved, but you see, हर topic का अपना एक मजा है. अगर इसमें सम्स होता तो आपको पता है मैं सम्स सारे करवा दिया होता, बट इसमें कॉन्सेप्ट ज्यादा है और थ्योरी ज्यादा है, तो आपको भी मेरे साथ चलना पड़ेगा, है ना. राइट. ओके, लेट्स गो ऑन एवरीबडी टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. स्कोप ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन. स्कोप ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन. स्कोप ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन, ये बड़ा खतरनाक है. स्कोप ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन इन रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन. इन रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन. इन रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन. स्कोप ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन इन रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन. Okay, let's go ahead, everyone. So, scope of government intervention. Friends, here I will tell you a concept. Very interesting. But on under one condition. That while I am explaining this topic, you will not message anything. You will just listen. That is my condition. Then I will explain this concept. First, tell me. Come on, everyone. Are we ready, everybody? Okay. So now pay attention. I will be using when I will be making you write this ना, मैं जब आपको ये लिखवा रहा हूँगा, I'll be explaining a concept called dead weight loss. 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 ये मैं आपको अभी समझा रहा हूँ. इसको मैं समझाने के लिए लिख रहा हूँ. आप लोग मत कॉपी करना. You don't have to copy it. Just understand it and then I'll make you write the sentence. But if I write the sentence and I don't explain this, वो फिर unfair हो जाएगा. So I hope everybody is ready. Are you ready, everyone? बस कुछ मत लिखना. Don't write anything. Don't write anything. Don't express your feelings for the next 2 to 3 minutes. Listen carefully now. See, friends, suppose there is a rich person here and a middle class person here. Now, to promote equity, that is equality in society, government will impose taxes. Of course, everybody will agree, आप लोग सारे लोग agree करेंगे कि government, suppose income tax का बात करते हैं, suppose we are talking about income tax, and on the rich guy, government is imposing the income tax at the rate of 30%. And suppose on this middle class guy on the other side, suppose for that matter, government is imposing the tax of, 20%, or let's say for that matter, 10%, for assumption's sake. Now, why government is doing this? To ensure equity, but sometimes, but everybody, equity and efficiency should go hand in hand. इक्विटी एंड एफिशिएंसी दोस्तों साथ साथ जाना चाहिए. इक्विटी और एफिशिएंसी साथ साथ जाना चाहिए, मीनिंग इक्विटी एंड एफिशिएंसी शुड गो हैंड इन हैंड. What may happen? Suppose government decides that okay, now I'll tax this rich guy at the rate of 40% and this middle class guy at the rate of 5%. Now this rich person will be frustrated. This rich person, it may be a male, female, any gender. This rich person may feel that he is being penalized for working hard. Of course, if he's paying at the tax at the high rate, it means he's contributing to the society much more. Now, if government tax this guy at the rate of 40%, frustration, he may think that he is being imposed penalty on as if he has done some mistake. So, now this guy also starts working less, earning less. This way, economy also suffers, this guy also suffers, government also suffers. Bad for all. That loss, this working less is the loss that is called deadweight loss. मतलब पहले मान लीजिए, if this guy would have been working worth of 10 crores, now this guy is working worth of only, let's say, around 50 lakhs, because he or she is very angry with the government's policy of taxing them at high rates. So yes, equity should go with efficiency. The equity idea should not be so high that you forget about efficiency. People may lose their efficiency, particularly the rich, and it would result in deadweight loss. Okay? This is a technical language, a conceptual language. Now, should I give you a poorer example? Which will help you understand? Yes, sir, surely. Suppose what I'm explaining is the concept of deadweight loss. Suppose our dear institute comes out with the law that from now on, any student who will get above 50%, suppose somebody getting 60% and somebody is getting 30%, then our institute decides that okay, from now on, the extra 10% that is beyond what you need to pass will be given to this guy who has scored less, and this guy will get 40% and your 60% will be reduced. Suppose institute decides this. Now what will happen? The people who are studying for 80%, bringing 80%, the people who are bringing 90% in exams, or let's say 75% in exams, now they will feel कि why I should study more. Their question will be, why I should study more? मैं क्यों ज्यादा पढ़ूं? जब ICAI को एक्स्ट्रा मार्क्स, मेरे एक्स्ट्रा मार्क्स किसी को और को दे देने हैं, तो मैं क्यों पढ़ूं? तब वो बंदा क्या करेगा? पढ़ना छोड़ देगा. इस चक्कर में जो 80% पे था, the guy who was at 80% will fall to 60% for that matter. This loss is called deadweight loss. Translate it into economic terms, monetary terms. That becomes deadweight loss for the economy. So institute should not do this. Obviously, institute is not doing this, and therefore there should be a balance between equity and efficiency. It should not promote equity to a level where the highly efficient individuals start becoming inefficient. The rate of translation would be द डेड वेट लॉस टू द सोसाइटी। आई एम 100% श्योर ये आपको समझ में आ गया। हिंदी में एक बार बोलूंगा और फिर आगे बढ़ेंगे। अगर अमीर लोग पे आप बहुत जोर से टैक्स लगाते हो और गरीब लोगों पे आप एकदम कम टैक्स लगाते हो, एक मोमेंट आएगा जब अमीर लोग बोलेंगे कि यार मैं ज्यादा मेहनत कर रहा हूं तो मेरे ऊपर और ज्यादा पेनल्टी लग रहा है, टैक्स नहीं पेनल्टी लग रहा है, ऐसा फील हो रहा है। तो अमीर लोग मेहनत कम करना कम कर देंगे, उससे गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स तो कम मिलेगा ही, साथ में इकोनॉमी भी पूरा नीचे जाएगा। तो इक्विटी करो, अमीर पे ज्यादा टैक्स लगाओ, गरीब पे कम टैक्स लगाओ, बिल्कुल सही है। बट उस हद तक जहां अमीर को यह फ्रस्ट्रेशन ना हो जाए और उसकी एफिशिएंसी नीचे ना गिर जाए। ये है डेडवेट लॉस। रिडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन का ये गोल है कि इक्विटी के साथ साथ एफिशिएंसी भी बरकरार रहे। अब 100% क्लियर होगा, मैं दोबारा ये पॉइंट नहीं बोलने वाला, अब लिखवाने वाला हूं। सीधी बात, नो बकवास। अब बताइए क्लियर है क्या? हाँ ना बोलना पड़ेगा। अब बोलिए, अब अपना फीलिंग्स जाहिर कीजिए। इज दैट क्लियर एवरीवन? So now I'll explain this. I'll make you write what dot with loss, etc., is. Don't worry. Just that it's clear now is what I needed. चलिए, let's go. Redistribution policies are likely to have efficiency costs or deadweight losses due to conflict, झगड़ा, due to conflict between efficiency and equity, due to conflict between efficiency and equity, due to conflict between efficiency and equity. Moving on. Example, greater equity can be achieved through increasing the tax rate on the rich. Through increasing the tax rate on the rich. Increasing the tax rates on the rich. On the rich. But this increased tax may act as a may act as a disincentive. May act as a disincentive to work and discourage people. May act as a disincentive to work and discourage people from saving and investments and risk taking. From saving and investments and risk taking. Consequently, consequently, potential revenue may reduce. Consequently, potential revenue of the government may reduce. Consequently, potential revenue may reduce. Finally, redistribution should be accomplished. Redistribution should be accomplished with minimal efficiency costs by carefully balancing equity and efficiency. 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 Is that clear, everybody? Yes or no? I'm waiting. So this is the scope. And finally, we will discuss the instruments, as you rightly guessed, everyone. Let's discuss some instruments. 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 Number one, government may introduce taxation policy where high income people are taxed at higher rates. That is called progressive taxation. Okay. So taxation policies, this is instrument of redistribution. Instruments of redistribution. Taxation policies of the government. Taxation policies of the government. Number two, progressive taxes. Here we can write na progressive taxes. Progressive taxation क्या होता है sir? So what is progressive taxation? Where the high income individuals are taxed at higher rates and lower income individuals are either paying no tax or low tax. No or low. Taxation policies of the government, number one. Number two, food grain security. You know, there is this ration card system where you can buy at lower than market price up to a certain quantity. Reservation. You see, today the disadvantaged group, the people from backward financial classes, get employment reservations in various sectors. Yes or no? So employment reservations. Scheme for backward region development government can bring. Scheme for backward region development. These are different tools, you know, I would say, these are the different tools, I would say, to ensure redistribution. To ensure redistribution. Friends, so redistribution is also finally over. And now we will move on to stabilization function for that matter. Once you all are ready, okay. So I will read it out for you. Number one is taxation policies of the government. That is progressive taxation. Number two is food grain security, employment reservation, scheme for backward region development. Then Suraj, you may refer ICAI mat as well. Institute has provided a mat for the same reason, for you to read carefully, right? So friends, taxation policies of the government, food grain security, employment reservations, schemes for backward regional development. I hope it's clear, everybody. Come on. Schemes for backward regional development. Like, for example, government may say, suppose, for example, a place XYZ, city XYZ in India is underdeveloped. Government may say that anybody who will decide to start business, doing business here, they will get tax holiday. That is, they will not have to pay tax for, let's say, next 10 years or 7 years. That is the kind of thing I am talking to you about. Backward regional development. All right, let's go. Now moving on to stabilization function. What is it? The last one, Stabilization function. Stabilization function. You all remember? We had discussed, I told you this is the entire class of today. You see where it is. Allocation C, done. Redistribution C, done. And finally, we are on to stabilization. The last one, as per Richard Musgrave. Stabilization function. Stabilize. Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me what is the meaning of stability? What is the meaning of stability? Stabilization function. Let's go ahead. Let's see what is stabilization function. Stabilization function पहले हिंदी में बताऊंगा और फिर इंग्लिश में. देखो, इकोनॉमी में मैं मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स का बात कर रहा हूं, ठीक है ना. मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स में क्या होता है, काफी बार ऐसा होता है इकोनॉमी में सिचुएशन ऐसा आ जाता है कि प्राइसेस बहुत जोर ऊपर भागता है, मतलब इन्फ्लेशन जोर का, या जोर से नीचे गिरता है, जैसे कोविड के टाइम पे डिफ्लेशन जोर का. ऐसे कोई भी और फ्लक्चुएशन हो सकता है इकोनॉमी में. जैसे मैंने आपको प्राइसेस का बोला, उस हिसाब से हो सकता है बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट, कि हम लोग को बहुत ज्यादा इंपोर्ट करना पड़ जाए तो बहुत जोरदार नेगेटिव में हम लोग चले जाएं बैलेंस ऑफ ट्रेड में. समझ में आया ना? बैलेंस ऑफ ट्रेड मतलब जहां जब हम लोग गुड्स को इंपोर्ट ज्यादा करते हैं कंपेयर टू एक्सपोर्ट्स, या ओवरऑल में हम लोगों का सरप्लस बहुत पॉजिटिव आ जाए, कुछ भी हो जाए, इतना सारा जो फ्लक्चुएशंस होता है इकोनॉमी में वो अवॉइड करने का कोशिश करना चाहिए. कुछ फ्लक्चुएशन तो हमेशा रहेगा, बट जितना कम हो वो फ्लक्चुएशन उतना स्टेबल कंडीशन रहेगा. उसको बोलते हैं स्टेबलाइजेशन फंक्शन. नाउ फ्रेंड्स, in English, friends, in the macroeconomic perspective, you see there are a lot of things. There is inflation going on, there is deflation going on, there is price war going on, there is BOP, balance of payments condition, that exists. Now all this situation may adversely affect an economy or positively affect an economy, whatever the thing may be. There may be huge huge change in foreign exchange. For example, suppose $1 is, let's say, 78 rupees. हो सकता है एक $1 85 चला जाए. इतना जोर का फ्लक्चुएशन. टू अवॉइड दिस, इसको अवॉइड करना, इसको एलिमिनेट करना को ही बोलते हैं स्टेबलाइजेशन. टू अवॉइड दिस, प्रैक्टिस ऑफ ट्राइंग टू अवॉइड दिस बाय द गवर्नमेंट with the involvement of government is called stabilization function. I am sure you have understood. Yes or no? Come on, everybody. Sir, we surely do understand. Let's go ahead, everyone. Let's go ahead, everyone. First, the meaning as usual. I'll repeat and I'll read it out. Stabilization function. Stabilization function aims at eliminating macroeconomic stabilization function aims at eliminating macroeconomic fluctuations arising from suboptimal allocation. Arising from suboptimal allocation. Arising from suboptimal allocation aims at eliminating macroeconomic fluctuations arising from suboptimal allocation. Okay, you have understood this. Now, what are the objectives of the government? What are the objectives? This is in English. Eliminating macroeconomic fluctuations. In economy, there are a lot of fluctuations in employment, foreign exchange, GDP. Such immense changes or fluctuations. Trying to avoid that is called stabilization. Now, what are the objectives of the government? Let's do it one by one, everyone. Objectives of the government. Objectives of whose? Objectives of the government. So let's see. Number one, number one is labor employment and capital utilization. Labor employment and capital utilization. Labor employment and capital utilization. First objective is that people are employed and machinery, etc., technology is being used properly in the rightful way. That is capital utilization. That is number one. Number two, general price levels. Eliminate fluctuations in general price levels. Balance of payment. Sir, balance of payment means to ensure that neither the expenditures are too high nor the revenues. There is a balance. And finally, to ensure a stable rate of economic growth. Stable rate of economic growth. These are the areas. See, everything is covered under macroeconomics. What is it? Employment. Objectives of government. Under objectives of government under what? Under this stabilization function. Under this stabilization function. Under this stabilization function. Objectives of the government under this stabilization function. So I'll study this, each one of them. Labor employment and capital utilization, general price level, balance of payment, rate of economic growth. So I will study this. Stabilization functions aims at eliminating macroeconomic fluctuations arising from suboptimal allocation. So, okay. So now government objectives of government, it would be labor employment and capital utilization, general price levels, balance of payment, and ensuring a rate of economic growth. Right, sir? It's all right. Right, sir. Objectives of government under stabilization function. Any doubts from this, please ask. Any doubts from it, please ask. I can help you with a trick to remember this. The trick is PEG plus BOP. PEG plus BOP. BOP is balance of payment and PEG means P for price, E for employment, G for growth. I think this helps you. So to remember this four objective, the trick is PEG, price, employment, growth, and BOP is BOP only. I hope it's clear. Balance of payment meaning that we have done in class 11-12 level, right? In 11-12 level, all of you have studied what is balance of payment. Sir, what is the balance of payment? Could you tell us? Definitely, I will tell you. See, there is an expenditure of the country. There is outflow of money from the country. पैसे इंडिया से बाहर जा रहे हैं. इनफ्लो, पैसे इंडिया में आ रहे हैं. इन दोनों का डिफरेंस को बैलेंस बोलते हैं. अगर पैसे ज्यादा आ रहे हैं तो उसको सरप्लस बोलते हैं. इफ मोर मनी इज कमिंग इन ऑन नेट बेसिस, दैट इज surplus balance of payment. If more money is going out on net basis, that is deficit. And if it is equal, it is balance of payment. But remember, balance of payment is generally zero, because if you spend more, then you will have to borrow from somebody to spend more. So it should balance in that accounting sense. Please pay attention, everyone. I'll now explain further. But once this is done, then I'll explain. Okay, done, sir. So these are objectives of the government. Now, scope for government intervention or scope of government intervention. Scope of government intervention. Two or three points you should remember here. See, how to promote stabilization. So I can say stabilization. Government has two major controls. Maybe through monetary policy. Whenever RBI, government asks RBI to do something, like to raise the interest rate on loans, something of this sort, that is monetary policy. But whenever government raises the taxation or reduces taxation, increases subsidy, something of this form, that is government revenue and expenditure, that is fiscal policy. So monetary policy basically focuses on money supply by the banks into the economy, focuses on money supply by the banks into the economy. Banks कितना लोन दे रहे हैं, ये monetary policy control करता है into the economy. So if there will be need to increase more money supply, government may reduce the interest rate on loans. If there is a need of reducing the money supply, then government may increase the interest rate of loans. That could be one example under monetary policy. Fiscal policy is nothing. Policy of government taxation and expenditure. So this is like monetary policy is like indirectly through banks. Fiscal policy is government doing directly. Policy of taxation and expenditure. 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 So policy of taxation and expenditure. Everyone, these are the points. So as I say, stabilization may be through monetary policy, through fiscal policy. Monetary policy focuses on money supply by banks into the economy. Fiscal policy focuses on taxation and expenditure by the government. Is that clear? Have you noted it down, everyone? So that we can move on to intervention now. I mean, intervention instruments, actually. Okay, let's go. Okay, let's go. Now, we talk about methods of government intervention. Methods of government intervention or instruments. Or instruments. Instruments. So friends, let's talk about these instruments. Okay. Number one, expansionary. See, expansionary means that focuses on increasing the money supply. Everybody write down. Expansionary means increasing the money supply. Contractionary means reducing the money supply. Expansionary means increasing the money supply. Contractionary means reducing the money supply. Everybody, you write down. Expansionary means increasing the money supply in the economy. Contractionary means reducing the money supply from the economy. Expansionary means increasing the money supply in the economy. Contractionary means reducing the money supply in the economy. One more time I will say, and then I'll conclude. Expansionary means increasing the money supply in the economy. Contractionary means reducing the money supply from the economy. Come on, everybody. So yes, the first one is everybody expansionary fiscal policy. The first one is everybody expansionary fiscal policy. Fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy. It is basically where government increases its expenditure and cuts down taxes to overcome recession. To overcome recession. That is expansionary fiscal policy. You see, expenditure बढ़ गया तो इकोनॉमी में पैसा ज्यादा आ गया. Cut down taxes means reduces taxes so that people are left with more money. This happens when there is recession. In COVID times, you see, there was recession. So government wanted to reduce the tax rate so that people start spending. What is recession? In business cycle, you have studied. Don't tell me you have not studied. In microeconomics, you have business cycle. So you must have studied what is recession, depression. Don't tell me ki you don't know that. Okay. Contractionary fiscal policy. As you know, here the objective is to reduce money supply. This happens during inflation time. During inflation time, government cuts down expenditure. Government cuts down expenditure. Government cuts down expenditure. Government cuts down expenditure and raises taxes to control inflation. To control inflation. To control inflation. To control inflation. Got it, sir? Now, friends, if there are deficit budgets, then what is a deficit budget? You know, recently on the 1st of February only budget came for the upcoming financial year. What is the budget? Budget basically tells us the areas where government will be spending and the areas which the government will be taxing. So how much revenue government will make and how much money government is going to spend. Deficit budget means government is spending more. Is this good for developing countries? Yes, it is good because developing countries need the government to spend more so that development projects can take place. Okay, sir, we understand now. To deficit budget improve the economic activity or increase the pace of economic activity for that matter. Deficit budget are expected to stimulate the economic activity. Stimulate the economic activity. Deficit budget are expected to stimulate. Stimulate matlab improve, increase. I would rather say increase. Give a push to the economic activity going on. Very good, sir. Finally, surplus budget. Friends, if there is a surplus budget, it slows down the economic activity. Surplus budget slow down economic activity. Surplus means government is earning more than it is spending. It means government is keeping some money aside. It is okay for developed countries to have surplus budget, but for developing countries, deficit budget is advisable. Slow down economic activity. Now, friends, one more thing I will tell you about. First, you all note this down, methods of government interference. I will read each one of them. Expansionary fiscal policy, contractionary fiscal policy, deficit budget, surplus budget. Deficit budget are expected to stimulate economic activity. Surplus budget, slow down economic activity. Is that clear? Come on, guys. Come on, everyone. Okay, great. Very good. So now, friends, I will explain you one more thing that is called contagion effect. What is it? Contagion effect. What is contagion effect, sir? Suppose, my dear friends, our Indian economy is not stable. Suppose if our Indian economy is not stable, the other countries who are strongly dependent on our economy, it may be Sri Lanka for that matter, it may be some other country for that matter, they will also be affected. So effect on one country spreading into other countries, that is called contagion effect. I'll write down. Increased interdependence, international interdependence. International interdependence means one country depending on other country for its resources. Conflict means a fight. Opposite views is called conflict. Increased increased international interdependence, increased international interdependence means one is dependent on so many other countries. Increased international interdependence causes forces of instability, causes forces of instability. Friends, you know what instability is so far? Causes forces of instability to get easily transmitted, to get easily transmitted from one country to other countries, which is also known as contagion effect. Contagion. Contagion means that spreads. Contagion effect. The one that spreads and affects the others. Friends, I hope it's crystal clear to everybody. Now, friends, what do I tell you? Friends, now what do I tell you? This one is everybody contagion effect. You all get it. Absolutely, you do. What do I say further? First, you write this down, then I'll comment any further. Then I'll comment any further. For example, if for example, if Indian manufacturing industries are not doing well, government will get less taxes. If government will get less taxes, then government will not be able to help countries like Nepal, Bhutan, etc., Bangladesh, etc. If government is not helping Nepal, Bhutan, etc., their economy is also going to be affected. So instability in one affects the instability in the neighboring or the nearby dependent nations as well. That's it. That's contagion effect. So friends, you got to remember the three keywords whenever they are talking about whenever they are talking about allocation function, that means it refers to the way in which factors of production are being used. It refers to the way in which factors of productions are being used, in which refers to the way in which factors of production are being used. That is allocation function. When we talk about redistribution function, it is concerned with how income is distributed. And finally, to eliminate macroeconomic fluctuations, if they talk about eliminating macroeconomic fluctuations, then it is stabilization function they are talking about. Macroeconomic fluctuations avoidance is basically stabilization function. Right, sir? Yes, you can say that. And my dear students, this is contagion effect, where increased international interdependence causes forces of instability. This we are studying under the stability measure only. Okay, this stability function only. That instability in one country, stabilization or stability as whatever you want to call it, forces of instability to get easily transmitted from one country to other countries. That is, somehow a contagion or a spiral kind of effect. Okay, so that is what we call as contagion effects. Is this crystal clear to everybody? Come on, guys. Is that crystal clear to everybody? Come on, give a confirmation. Yes or no? I'm waiting. This is what, contagion effect is all about. Yes, one question is contagion effect is good or bad? Both. If you are talking about advantages, advantage to one country spreads across other countries. That way it is good. But if it is a disadvantage, it is bad. For example, suppose you are in a class, your friend has brought many chocolates. If the friend is spreading chocolate across the class, that is also contagion and good. But if your friend is suffering from COVID and is spreading coronavirus across the class, that is bad. Impact same stays the same. The name of the impact is contagion. Whether good things are being shared or bad things will determine whether contagion effect is good or bad. There is no such statement that this effect is good or this effect is bad. Of course, it doesn't really make any sense. So friends, there it is. We have finally been able to complete this portion, that is fiscal function portion. Next class, we are going to talk about market failure. Next class, we are going to talk about market failure. Revise this and come. That's it. Thank you. Goodbye everyone for the day. Bye bye everyone.